Welcome to the Golden State Media Concepts Beauty Tips Podcast, the show that gives you advice on everything from hair to fashion to skincare products. We'll talk about the latest trends in makeup, hairstyles, and anti-aging remedies. And we'll cover all of the newest fashion trends. If you have an interest in or questions about the beauty and fashion trends that might work best for you, the Golden State Media Concepts Beauty Tips Podcast has got you covered.
Welcome to the GSMC Beauty Tips Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Colleen, and let's just get into some beauty stuff. So, I was thinking about all the different things that we talk about when we're talking about beauty, and I started thinking about makeup misconceptions. Now, I'm not narrowing this list down to specifically people who don't wear makeup or specifically to people who are beginners or veterans or anything like that. I'm talking about general makeup misconceptions. So makeup misconceptions from every angle. And I'm not just going to say the misconception and move along. I'm going to elaborate on each one. So let's start out with eyeshadow palettes. So the misconception is that eyeshadow palettes aren't worth the money. Actually, they are. Now, a lot of times when you're paying that extra buck for an eyeshadow palette and you're like, man, I shouldn't have paid that much for this, or maybe that's just a little too much. That's how I felt when I bought my first eyeshadow palette. I was like, should I have spent all this money on this? But the difference is amazing. Like, a lot of times you realize that the money, it has been put into the eyeshadow palettes themselves. Now, let's take, for instance, there's a Milani eyeshadow palette that I really like, and it works really well, and it's very cheap. And I was using it so much because it was cheap, and I had it, and, I was refining my skills and all that kind of jazz. And then I decided to purchase an Anastasia Beverly Hills eyeshadow palette because I love the colors in it. And they were stuff that I'd never had before. But this price difference was really a leap. I think the Milani one I may have spent $10 or less on. And then this one was about $40 to $50. And I was like, okay, that's a lot of money. I don't know if I should do that. Maybe I'll just stick to this stuff. And I got the palette, started using it. It was a whole nother world. The blendability is a whole nother world. And now I've tried makeup products from all over the spectrum, and it really, like, a lot of the more expensive ones are really worth your money. But there are some expensive ones that are not worth your money, and you just need to be wary. But usually if you're going to spend something on a specific brand, like let's say Anastasia Beverly Hills, because their eyeshadows are so good. The same with the Jeffree Star eyeshadows. Now, the Jeffree Star eyeshadows are more expensive than the Anastasia Beverly Hills ones. Actually, I think they're now both around the same price, but the quality is there. The quality is there. The colors you get are there. The pigment is there. The metallics are a whole nother world, and so really, when it comes to makeup in general, makeup is expensive. Makeup is expensive, and that's just that. But I realized with a lot of the products that you're paying good money for, you're getting good use out of. Now, there are a lot of big name brands like Louboutin who makes lipsticks, and I've heard nothing but bad things about their lipsticks, but the lipsticks are like almost $100 each. You see where I'm going with that? Now, that leads me into this next makeup misconception, which is drugstore isn't as good as high-end, that's why it's cheaper. that's completely false. So drugstore, they've just upped their game over the past few years. And I have had so many drugstore products that are just so good and basically this high-end quality product. You know, they're really close. And they are getting a little more on the pricey side now, but you need to realize that getting stuff from the drugstore doesn't mean that you have lesser stuff. A lot of times means that it's fine. Like I had, when I was working my haunted house, we were using some cream paints from Wet n Wild versus cream paints from another brand that was more expensive. And the Wet n Wild cream paints went for like $2 to $3, and they are amazing. They are just on another level when it comes to it. Whereas the other ones were just difficult to work with. I don't know. It was hard. But it really shows you, that's one example showing you that drugstore can be just as good as high end. I mean, one of my favorite drugstore brands is NYX, NYX Cosmetics, and their stuff is so good. But you get it at Target. I mean, it doesn't matter. Also, like, you shouldn't have to break your bank for makeup. So if you're really looking for stuff and you don't have the money to do it, but you got a little bit of money saved aside, I think your best bet is to go drugstore. Go drugstore 100%. They are just as good. They are great for the price. And you can find all sorts of things now. It's not just your basic mascara, lipstick, 5 shades of foundation and that. I mean, you've got so much in the drugstore right now. It's insane. I mean, Target's one of my favorite places to go to pick up some makeup if I need it. And I mean, their stuff is great. Whereas Sephora has great stuff too. But honestly, I think I've had more good luck just going to a drugstore and picking random products than I have going to Sephora and picking out just high-end products. I don't know. There are high-end products that I stand by, but a lot of things you can achieve the exact same look with drugstore. I mean, this is a misconception that bothers me, but it also is something that before I was doing makeup, I can understand. You're like, oh, it's at the drugstore and it's cheap. That's not worth it. It's going to be weird. The eyeshadows are not going to look like anything and all that. But nowadays, it's the complete opposite. It's so good. So I just wanted to like debunk that specifically and throw it in with the eyeshadow palette worth. But you do need to understand, when I did talk about that eyeshadow palettes aren't worth the money, a lot of them are worth the money, but there are so many that are in drugstores now that are also worth the money. Wet n Wild has some good ones. NYX has some great ones. I think Makeup Geek is even in Target now, and their eyeshadows are on another level. So it doesn't have to be expensive, but just know if you are going to go for an expensive palette, you're most likely, like 95% of the time, 98% of the time, you're getting your money's worth. You're getting that quality, that blendability, all that kind of shebang when it comes to that. I wanted to throw those two together since they kind of fit together in a way, since you're talking about, is it worth the money to spend all this and is it not? Now, like I said, makeup's just expensive. There's nothing we can do about that at this point. It's expensive. It sucks because it's expensive. Even a lot of drugstore makeup at this point is kind of on the pricier side. But there are so many fun things that you can do with the cheap stuff, and don't feel like you need to save all your money to get this one way too expensive product from Sephora because it's going to change everything. It's not. I promise you, it's probably not going to change your whole life if you buy one singular product that's real expensive, and you just think it's going to up everything else. It's probably not. That's how I feel about that. And it's the truth when it comes to pricing and makeup and palettes and money. Now, I'm going to take a quick break, and when we come back, let's talk some more makeup misconceptions.
The GSMC Life and Happiness podcast takes you on a journey of exploration. We'll discuss tried and true methods alongside the latest trends of how to best live your life to its fullest and happiest. From psychology to meditation, science to self-help books, the GSMC Life and Happiness podcast will help you to discover what makes you happy and how you can live life being the best you possible. Download the GSMC Life and Happiness podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Back to the GSMC Beauty Tips podcast. Now, before the break, we were talking about makeup misconceptions, and we are keeping on that train, keeping on, and let's move on to some more makeup misconceptions. Now, this is one that I see all the time, and I see people doing it, and I don't know if it's because they think it's going to help or because it's just kind of what their hands automatically do. So this is, the misconception is you should pump your mascara before you use it. And they say you do this to get rid of clumps in the mascara. This is 100% false. I have a mascara in my hands, and I'm going to kind of do what I'm talking about sound-wise, so maybe you can understand. If not, I'll post a short little video on the at GSMC _beauty tips Twitter and the GSMC Beauty Tips Facebook page. Now, mascara is opening. And now this is what I'm talking about. Where you're just kind of putting it back in, dipping it in, pulling it out, dipping it in, pulling it out, dipping it in. I hope that sounded good. Who am I kidding? I bet it did. Some makeup ASMR for you. But they say it's going to get rid of clumps. It doesn't. You're just taking product on the wand, pulling it out, which is taking product off the wand, putting it back in, putting more product on the wand. Yeah, no. It's not doing anything for you. So don't do that. It's just not doing it. Or if you're just kind of pumping it in there. If you're just pumping it inside where you're not pulling it all the way out, then you're just putting product upon product upon product on, and that's actually going to make things way more clumpy. Now, once again, I'm going to go over this tip that I go over in so many ones, and I just want everyone to try it because it's so good. And that's when you put on your mascara, take a clean spoolie, run that spoolie through your eyelashes while your mascara is not fully dry, and it'll really help to eliminate clumps and also to separate the lashes, and I don't know, it looks so good. Trust me on this. I definitely need to do a quick little video and put it on the at GSMC _beauty tips Twitter and the GSMC Beauty Tips Facebook page. Now, let's move from pumping your mascara, because we just figured out that is false. That is not real, and it is very annoying. It's annoying because I just made you listen to me doing that. But anyway, let's talk about bronzer. Now, bronzer is great. There's a few things that people do with bronzer that you shouldn't do. And let's talk about a different one before I get into this misconception. And that is using a bronzer to contour. Contouring, you should use a more cooler toned color that's going to really kind of chisel out your face because you're mimicking shadow, whereas bronzer is warm and you're using that to warm up the face. So let's talk about bronzer. Now, this is something that I see people on YouTube and Instagram and all that kind of stuff do all the time. And it's a lot. So this is dusting bronzer all over your face because it'll give you a bronze glow. No, it will not. You see it on these in these tutorials or whatever, they're like, I'm just going to put a little all over my face and it looks fine. But once again, they're under beauty lights. And if you look at them in real life and you're putting bronzer all over your face, you're going to look pretty muddy. You're just kind of muddying up everything. You're working so hard to get to a beautiful point, and then you just put bronzer all over. That's not warming up your face. That's just making your face a little muddy. So please don't do this. It's not attractive. I can understand bronzing your forehead, your cheekbones. Some people like to bronze under the jaw. I think you should just contour there, but I mean, to each their own. But you're using this on the perimeters of your faces or your face and whatnot to warm up your face. You want to give warmth and life back into your face with bronzer. And the best way to do that is by bronzing appropriately and not dusting bronzer all over your face. Once again, studio lights, man. Studio lights change everything. I was actually, what was I watching? Oh, I was watching Jeff Goldblum, his TV show on Hulu, or not on Hulu, it's on Disney Plus. And he did a makeup episode, which was great. Don't get me wrong, it was great. And there was a beauty influencer who was on because he was at a beauty convention. I think it was Manny MUA. I'm putting that out there because he's on the show. And this is something that you could recognize in the thing, is his face looked pretty textured. I mean, that's everybody. Everybody has texture. No one is flawless. If you are, let me know because I need to know. But no, everybody's got texture on their face, and he does a lot of makeup, and he does a lot of the things that I kind of tell you guys to stay away from, but he works with these beauty lights, and when they're showing photos of him in the show that are coming, or that are like just photos from his tutorials or little clips, and his skin looks flawless. But then when they cut back to him and Jeff Goldblum at the convention, you can see all that texture on his face, and it's not looking as flawless as it did. And that's because it's the studio lighting. And that's something, I don't know if he specifically, but I do know of a few influencers who do the bronzer all over the face. He might have at one point, but it might look good in those studio lights because it's not picking everything up. But it's picking everything up when you're under not studio lights or you're in real life, and it's going to show. So if you decide to try this bronzer thing, which once again I do not recommend, but if you decide to try this bronzer thing, you're just like, oh, maybe this will be, just dust all over my face for a little bit of bronze. You're going to look at yourself in the mirror and notice that you're not looking like these influencers or what have you that are doing the same thing, because it's real life. Like I said, and I've said before, and I'll say a million times, is the best mirror to look in after you've done your makeup is a car mirror. The little visor mirrors. I like to call that the mirror of truth, because it tells you everything. You may do your makeup inside and you're like, man, I look so good. I've done this before, where I'm like, I did my foundation. I was like, man, my foundation looks so good today. I went out and I looked in the mirror of truth, and my foundation was not the same color as my neck, and it was bad. And I felt embarrassed, and I went inside and I took it off. But either way, like, that's the thing when it comes to a lot of things that you're told on the internet, is just take everything with a grain of salt and go look at yourself in the mirror of truth. That's what I do. At this point, I'm kind of like, every time I do my own personal makeup, I kind of go sneak to the car, take a look, and decide whether or not I'm, loving it or not. Either that or stand in front of a window. In front of a window with your mirror face, or your mirror's back to the window. The mirror's back to the window, so you're looking directly out the window, kind of thing. That'll really help. That gives you the natural light, and that can kind of help in the same situation. But still, the mirror of truth is the mirror of truth, and that's the way to go. Now, before I keep rambling about the mirror of truth, let's take a quick break. And when I come back, we'll talk about some more makeup misconceptions.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
The GSMC Beauty Tips Podcast. Now, before the break, we were talking about makeup misconceptions. We talked about pumping your mascara and dusting bronzer all over your face. Now let's move a little back to mascara and talk about waterproof mascara. So this makeup misconception is waterproof mascara is better than non-waterproof. This is false. Waterproof mascara is going to protect you from running. Now, I've said this a good handful of times in a few of my beauty tips podcasts, which is that I like the Kush mascara from Milk Makeup, and I have the regular one along with the waterproof one. Now, I love the regular one. I prefer the regular one. Easier to take off, that kind of stuff. But I bought the waterproof one for my wedding, because I was getting married and I was going to cry. Now, I did really enjoy that one for that. But the one thing with waterproof mascara is it's always a little bit of a different formula. I mean, they both work beautifully for me, those specific ones, but they're a little bit different of a formula. And also, waterproof mascara is so hard to get off. It really is. Now, I think waterproof mascara is good if you're going to be sweating, if you're going to be crying, if you're going to be rubbing at your eyes. Either way, it's going to move around if you rub at your eyes. Just remember that. But, that kind of thing, more event type stuff is what I would use the waterproof mascara for versus what I use the non-waterproof mascara for just everyday, day to day, and it doesn't run on me. It doesn't, it doesn't really do much of a difference. It just doesn't protect me if it rains. That's really what it comes down to, is waterproof mascara is to be waterproof, whereas non-waterproof is to be non-waterproof. Not one is better than the other. It's all mascara. It all works the same. Now let's move from mascara onto the lips. Let's talk about lip plumpers. Now, you've probably seen lip plumpers, excuse me, everywhere. And they're like, oh, it makes your lips fuller, it's this and that. It does not. So when you're putting on lip plumpers, it's going to usually give you a tingle or a minty sensation or something like that. It's kind of just irritating your lips. Have you ever eaten something spicy and gotten it all over your lips and it's like real tingly and your lips kind of get real red and a little like minute amount of puffy? That's what lip plumpers do. A lot of times too, lip plumpers are also glosses, and a gloss can help you give the appearance of a fuller lip. And that's kind of, it's mixing the idea of irritation and gloss to give you what you are perceiving as bigger lips, when really it's not giving you much bigger lips. And also about lip plumpers. Let's talk about lip plumpers. They are not always good. There are a lot of lip plumpers that people will try and it burns and it hurts and they're like, oh, because it's working. And all it's doing is really irritating your lips. So just be wary if you're going to do the lip plumper thing. I don't do the lip plumper thing. I don't do lip plumper on anybody else. It's really not going to work. It's not going to work. There are some lipsticks that have lip plumping abilities in them, but most of those are just minty, and it just gives you that kind of slight tingly sensation, but they really don't plump. That's just how it goes when it comes to lip plumpers. They can be dangerous. Just be careful when it comes to that, because it can be dangerous. I remember I was watching, I think it was Glam Life Guru or Tati Westbrook on the YouTubes a long time ago. And she had done this lip plumper that was supposed to be super extreme and super plumping, and she was in like physical pain because of it, and it was like burning her lips, and she was panicking throughout the whole video. And that's just one example of be wary of what you're doing with your lips. Now, let's move on to this misconception. You need foundation. You don't need foundation. It's not a staple part of your look. If you want to do some eyeshadows, but you're not really feeling putting anything else on your skin, just do it. I do this all the time. I will wear eyeshadow, and I'll do like an eyeliner and some mascara, maybe even a highlight or something, and I won't put on foundation at all. And that's okay. There's no real rules to makeup, but don't feel like you need to put foundation on for every single makeup look you do. It's not a staple, it can be a staple part in your routine if that's really what you like, but it's not something that you have to do to finish a look. And that kind of goes with everything. There are days where I don't wear mascara because I just forget about it. And it's not affecting whatever look that I'm doing that day. That goes for a lot of things. Sometimes I'll contour and highlight, and then that's it. No foundation, no concealer, no eyeshadow, no mascara, no eyebrows, just highlight and contour. I do that sometimes. You can really kind of take things minimal and make things look really natural and pretty without putting any sort of base products on. Still, you should moisturize your skin and stuff like that, which we'll get into here in just a minute, but you should moisturize and still take care of your skin either way. Just, you don't need to put foundation on. Don't feel obligated. Don't feel obligated to put foundation on to finish a look. Most of the time, no one's going to really notice if you have it on or not. That's just how it goes. They're not going to be like, ooh, she just forgot to do her foundation. Nobody talks like that. Nobody does that. I talk like that because that was my voice, but you're not going to make a different impression whether you wear it or you don't. It's not a staple part of every look. My mom doesn't wear any foundation, and she does other products, and she looks great. And I never really noticed that she didn't do any foundation until I was makeup shopping with her. And I kind of thought about it, and I was like, all right. Good for you. My sister doesn't wear makeup or foundation all the time. Sometimes she just wears eyelashes, and that's okay. And I really, like I said, I really think makeup doesn't have there's no actual rule book. There's things that you can do and things that you're encouraged to do, but you can do whatever you want with makeup. And that even includes not adding bits and pieces into your routine. And it's okay. It's still going to make a good look, no matter if you've got no foundation on or no eyelashes, no mascara, or no lip. I do that kind of stuff where I'll put the slightest bit on one like of one product on my face, and then that's it. Sometimes I just wear highlighter because why not? That's just really it. And you can still make a look. That's all I'm saying. Let's take a quick break. And when I come back, we'll talk more about some makeup misconceptions.
Do you want to be healthier, yet you just don't know what to do? All these shows telling you this and that, but nothing seems to work. Well, listen close. Golden State Media Concepts has got something great for you. The Health and Wellness Podcast dedicated to workout trends, healthy eating habits, diet, and everything about healthy living. Join us in our banters as we help you not just live life to the fullest, but live it to the healthiest.
To the GSMC Beauty Tips podcast, and let's talk more about what we've been talking about this entire podcast, which is makeup misconceptions. Excuse the rustling, my notes were about to fall. Yeah, I'm the only person that still writes notes on legit paper. Does that make me old? I don't think so. But let's talk about more makeup misconceptions. We talked about waterproof mascara versus non-waterproof. We talked about lip plumpers and needing foundation. Now let's bring it on down to eyeshadows. Now this is something that is becoming less and less of a thing, but this is something that I was taught, and I don't agree with it 100%. This misconception is eyeshadow cannot match your eye color. You have to only wear eyeshadows that are complementary to your eye color. This is a myth. This is 100% a myth. You can wear whatever eyeshadows you want. Once again, makeup has no rules. Do you. Do whatever makes you feel good, whatever colors you like. So what I'm talking about this is we talked about color theory in one of the last podcasts, and how that applied to some eyeshadows, but I use that color theory only if I'm trying to make the eyes pop. Now, I have blue eyes, so if I'm going to try and make my eyes pop, I'm going to use an orange shadow. That's going to make my eyes pop. But according to this misconception, I can't wear blue eyeshadow because that's just a no-no. No, I can wear blue eyeshadow. I don't personally like it on me, but I'll still wear it. That doesn't matter whether you've got brown eyes or you've got green eyes or multicolored eyes, whatever color eyes you have, you can wear that same color or eyeshadow. You can even wear that same color mascara. What are you talking about? Do you? This bothers me. I mean, a lot of these bother me. I'm just going to say that after everyone and be like, this bothers me. No, it bothers me. They all bother me. These are misconceptions. So, yeah, no, wear whatever eyeshadow color you want. Don't think that wearing the same color as your eye is a bad thing, because it's not. Now, let's move on to this one. Now, this one bothers me a lot, but I also can see why this can be confusing. And this misconception is makeup can't expire. 150 million%, that's a lie. Now, if you look at basically any makeup container, a lot of times it's on the box, so just be wary that it might not be on the actual container. But if it's not on the actual container, that doesn't mean that it just doesn't expire. It expires, I promise you. But what I'm talking about is there's a little jar on your whatever product you have. Right now, I'm still holding that same mascara from earlier. So my mascara has a little jar with the lid that's open, and there's a number and a letter on it. There is 6 and M. That means that once this is open, it's good for 6 months. So they do have expiration dates. Just remember that. Whereas a lot of other things, let me grab something else real quick and show you the difference, because this mascara is good for 6 months. Now, I just grabbed my Jeffree Star Mini Breaker eyeshadow palette, and on the back is the same container. It's always the same. It never looks different. It's always the same. And this says 12 months. So it says it's good 12 months. That's the shelf life, basically. Things can go a little longer, but be wary when it comes to that kind of stuff. I had this eyeshadow palette from Tarte a really long time ago. And that palette, it was on the box, was the little expiration doodle, and I just didn't think about it. And then one day I went to open it and I noticed some speckles in some of my eyeshadows that weren't supposed to be in those eyeshadows. And that really threw me off. And so I was like, I need to throw this, because it was growing mold. And that happens. That happens with makeup. Makeup grows mold. It just does. Makeup grows mold. All sorts of things grow mold. And not just that, they just become unsanitary or unusable. So just be wary that there are expiration dates on things. But while we're talking about the expiration dates on things, I want to talk about a few other symbols that are on your packaging for different products. Now, on the back, I'm going to use this one as an example. Still the Jeffree Star Mini Breaker palette. On the back, it's got the shelf life. It's got a recycle symbol, meaning I can recycle this packaging. And then on the far right, it's got a bunny. A bunny with ears that kind of look like a heart. Now, you might see this on a lot of different products. I see this on a lot of products that I own, and this means that that product specifically is cruelty-free. Now, on a lot of packaging, that's not there, but on some of it, it is. But there's a lot more that is cruelty-free than shows off to be. Like, for instance, my mascara I was just talking about that is still right in front of me makes a cool sound. I don't know if you can hear that, but it was a good sound. But this one doesn't have my bunny logo on it, even though it is cruelty-free. Now, they're supposed to be obligated to put it on there, and I know it's on my shampoos and stuff like that too, but just that's what you know. And if it's not on there and you're 100% cruelty free when it comes to stuff, then I would definitely look that up. Look it up. Also, keep your boxes. I try not to, because I don't want boxes sitting around everywhere, but a lot of times I'll at least go over the box before I get rid of it, so I know the shelf life if it's not on the product, or so I know the if it's cruelty-free or not. Now, like I said, it's not on everything, even though I do believe it is required to put on everything that is cruelty-free the bunny, but it's, it's not, so there are places you can look up whether things are cruelty-free or not. The other thing that's different from this bunny than some other bunnies on the back of it is it says cruelty-free under it, which is very nice. And sometimes they'll say vegan under it, meaning that that product is fully vegan. Now, there are a lot of places that don't say that all their products are fully vegan, but they are. Just as a fair warning to you guys, since I know a lot of people are really gung-ho about the vegan aspect of that. And I was too when I was first starting out in makeup. I wanted, vegan quality stuff and cruelty-free stuff and stuff like that. But when I became more of a professional, I realized that there are so many other products that I need or love to use, and there's no way I can get that without it being not cruelty-free. I do try and buy majority cruelty-free, but I do buy MAC, which is not cruelty-free, and I enjoy a lot of their products, and a lot of their products do things that I can't do with other products that are cruelty-free. Just putting that out there when it comes to that. I'm taking a little bit of a ramble on at the end of this, I'm taking a little bit of a ramble. Let's just say that, because I did want to kind of explain some, some little things that are on every single makeup product, but you're like, what is that? Why is this on this? What does that mean? What is the number? That kind of thing. And it really is important to know your little jar logo as being an expiration date. Now, let's take another quick break, and when we come back, we'll talk about some more misconceptions when it comes to makeup.
Want to find out what movies to go see? Then check out the GSMC Movie Podcast. It's your ticket to the latest movies, whether it's a new blockbuster event, romantic, comedy, or action flick. This show has got it all covered. They talk some what to go see now, don't bother, what's hot on Netflix, and everything in between. That's gsmcpodcast.com/movie-podcast. When it's all about the movies, it has to be this new show. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
Welcome back to the GSMC Beauty Tips Podcast. Now, before the break and this entire podcast, we've been talking about makeup misconceptions. Now, we are not derailing from that train, and we are continuing on with our makeup misconceptions. Let's talk about foundation. Now, we talked about this, about foundation earlier, and I think I've talked about this before in a few of my podcasts. And this is, well, let me read the misconception first. The misconception is test your foundation on the wrist to get your perfect color. This is not real. This is a lie. The best way to test a foundation is on your face. On your face, on your neck, that kind of thing. Test your foundation on your face if you can, because that's going to be the easiest way to see if it matches. My other recommendation when it comes to this is, besides testing it on your face, wear it around for a little bit, because it might oxidize and it might change colors, or it might not be your color. You might have put it on in the store, and then you walk out with your already bought product, you look in the mirror, and you've got this different color little swatch that you put on your face. So just don't test it on your wrist. That's not going to be your ideal color. I'm just telling you this now. For me, my wrists are pretty much lighter than my face. So if I do that, I'm not getting, I'm not going to find anything. I'm not going to find anything that way. Neither on the back of your hand. The back of your hand's not a good place either. Just keep that in mind when it comes to testing out the color of your foundation. Go into a store if you have the chance and really test it on your face. Do that, test it on your face, wear it before you buy it. Get a sample of it. If you think it's a really good color and you really like it, but you're not sure, get a sample, take it, and try it out. Because foundations do oxidize. They oxidize. I talked about this in a recent podcast, and that's something that can be your ultimate downfall. It's been my downfall a few times. Now let's move on from foundation to oily skin types. This bothers me. And this is something that I think people just don't really get around much, and that's oily skin types don't need moisturizer. This is 100% a lie. You still need moisturizer. Just moisturize. If you've got oily skin, don't skip the moisturizer. But if you're noticing that the moisturizer is not helping your skin and just making you a little more oily, then go get a different moisturizer. Go figure out what's going to work the best for you. I know this moisturizer that I've been trying, which I talked about in my last podcast in the Milk Makeup Sets podcast, is good for oily skin as well. And this is the Milk Makeup Vegan Milk Moisturizer. Still using it. I actually think I do very much like it. And I'd love to try this on somebody with oily skin. They say it's for oily skin as well. So if any of you guys have oily skin and you've tried this moisturizer, let me know at GSMC_beauty tips Twitter and the GSMC Beauty Tips Facebook page. Let me know. I want to know. Because you should still moisturize. Don't just stop moisturizing because you're like, oh, my skin's real oily. Don't do that. Don't. Just don't. Let's move on to another. Let's move on to another. So let's talk about something I kind of touched on in a, I almost said future podcast, in a past podcast. Good gosh, where am I? Hello, am I okay? I don't know. But I did a whole podcast on are you aging yourself with your makeup and makeup tips for people with more mature skin. Now, this is something that I see a lot that people say, and it's women with mature skin need more makeup. As I talked about in that, no, you don't. You need minimal makeup, and you're still going to look great. Like, you don't need minimal makeup. If you want to wear a bunch of makeup and you've got more mature skin, go for it. But it's so much better to just go with a light hand and cream products and that kind of thing when it comes to having mature skin and makeup. I don't know why this is a thing. I think it's because they want to cover every single wrinkle or blemish that they have, but that's not going to work. It's kind of going to accentuate it. Just a fact. Now, let's move on to one last thing before we take a break. And this is super important. This is something that I know teenagers do, and sometimes even some adults do, and you need to stop. This misconception is sharing lipstick, lip gloss, mascara, and eyeliner is okay. This is not okay. Do not share your lipstick, your lip gloss, your mascara, or your eyeliner. Do not do it. First off, if you're sharing lipstick and you're putting it, like, you're like, oh, can I try that? And you give it to them and they pull it straight out of the tube and they slather it on their lips. That's their germs and their mouth germs that just got all over your wand. Once again, I've talked about this before, but like reusable, I'm all about reusable. I have reusable in my kit, reusable everything. So if I'm going to do the same lip color on somebody, I'm not going to use the wand provided. Most of the times I don't use the wand provided. I take a disposable wand, put it in there, and then put it on. If I need more, I throw that wand away. I take a second wand, I put it back in, like a second clean wand. I put it back in and I do it again. I never put the same wand I just put on somebody's face back in the tube. That's just contamination city. Do not do this. Do not. This is not good. And especially with mascara. Do not share mascara. Do not. Once again, if I'm using a mascara for a client or something along those lines, I will not use the brush at all. I will use disposable spoolies, and I will do it that way. Disposable spoolies, and if I need another coat, I'm throwing the one I did the first coat with and putting in a new spoolie. Don't share makeup. That's just an eye infection waiting to happen. Sharing mascara is an eye infection waiting to happen. And that's the same with eyeliner, because you're putting it so close to your lash line, so incredibly close to your lash line. Do not share eyeliner. Now, sometimes you can, but you need to be wary. Just don't. Stay away from it. Stay away from it as much as you possibly can. This is just something you don't do. Do not share makeup. If you're going to share makeup, use proper disposable stuff. It's to each your own when it comes to the risk of it, but I wouldn't. This is something that I've seen people, like teenage girls do, and not just teenage girls, but also just like teenagers sharing stuff, or, even young adults doing the same thing, and it's just not sanitary. Just, if you can, avoid 150% avoid sharing makeup. Now, I'm on a different level because I use makeup for clients, but like I said, I'm not using the wand that's going to go back in the tube because that is going to contaminate it if it's touching anything else. That's just how that goes. Do not share makeup. I just want to get that across. Now, before I keep rambling on about not sharing makeup, let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll talk about some more misconceptions. Makeup misconceptions. Makeup misconceptions. There we go.
The Golden State Media Concepts Travel Podcast, the show that gives you advice on everything travel. We explore places you've always wanted to go, as well as giving tips for traveling in those places. We'll give you advice on the best sites for travel tips, information, and discounts. Join us as we travel the world, explore cultures, and meet new people. The Golden State Media Concepts Travel Podcast has got you covered. Download the GSMC Travel Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Welcome back to the GSMC Beauty Tips Podcast. Now, before the break and this entire podcast, we've been talking about makeup misconceptions. We've talked about all sorts of different things, about prices, drugstore. We've talked about pumping mascara. We've talked about bronzer. We've talked about lip plumpers. We've talked about a lot of things. We have talked about a lot of things. Now, let's talk about some misconceptions that I know I've heard a lot, and they're not so much like misconceptions about the makeup products itself or stuff like that, but this is more on the lines of people who are not avid makeup wearers or whatnot. Now, this one bothers me a lot, especially in this day and age, and this is makeup is for girls. No, it is not. And actually, it's not really ever been. So makeup is for girls is a big thing. Like, they're like, oh, girls wear makeup. Girls do this. There are men in beauty everywhere. Also, the makeup industry is dominated by men. A lot of the people that I look up to and have had great experiences with, like working with and whatnot, they're all men. They're all men in this industry, and it's really dominated by men. So I don't want to hear makeup is for girls anymore. The industry's dominated by men, just in general. So we should stop that. Plus, it doesn't matter who you are, or what you are, or how you are, or why you are. You should be able to wear makeup if you want to. It's a fun creative outlet, I'm telling you. Now, this is another one that I see a lot, and it's really dumb. Now, all of these ones that I'm talking about now are all kind of this type of misconception. Now, let's talk about this misconception. Makeup is false advertising. Makeup is not false advertising. I mean, you can make it false advertising if you're using all sorts of extra stuff, but majority of girls or boys or men or women who are wearing makeup are not trying to trick you. We're not trying to catfish you or whatnot. It's literally just putting on makeup. Let me do this next misconception and then tie the two together. So this next misconception is people who wear makeup are insecure. Now, this goes along with makeup is false advertising, and I'll tell you why. Well, let's start with me as an example. I love everything creative. I am a creative, and I found that makeup is a great creative outlet, and I never used to wear makeup, and I don't wear makeup because I'm insecure. No, I don't. Most of the times, I don't wear makeup. I'm not wearing makeup now. I mean, sometimes I just don't, and it's not that big of a deal. I wear makeup for myself. For myself. And it's to make myself feel better or just zhuzh up my appearance a tiny bit. I'm not trying to catfish you or tell you that, one thing or another. I'm not doing that. I'm putting on makeup to either make myself feel good or also to kind of just, elevate a look I'm doing or anything, or just to be creative. Like I'm not doing makeup because I feel so insecure about how I look. That is not what this is. And I want everybody or anyone listening who's not really into makeup, but you're just listening because why not? Because maybe you like me, I don't know. But that, I want to get this into your heads, drilled into your heads, that makeup is not worn because we are insecure. It can help cover insecurities, but it doesn't mean that all this makeup I'm doing is because I'm insecure. No, it's because I'm being creative and I'm thinking outside of my box, or maybe I want to elevate a look, or maybe I feel good. I'm not trying to fake you out. I'm not trying to fake you out with makeup. That's just not what this is. That's what it never will be. I'm getting really heated. I am getting really heated just because this bothers me so much. Especially in a day and age where makeup industries are just dominating. It's like, what? Also, what you don't notice a lot of times is in your TV shows and your movies, every single person, including the males, are wearing makeup. It's just to make them look flawless. It's to make them look a little bit better than they do. Or to make them look like a grotesque creature. Those are the more fun ones. But I'm talking about like the Jeff Goldblum thing I was talking about earlier. I was talking about how I watched that Jeff Goldblum episode of his show that he did, and he did one on makeup. And I was watching that, and he was talking about how he's been in and out of the makeup chair his entire career because that's what they do. And his makeup artist puts makeup on him in the beginning, and you can't tell he has makeup on, but when you see him right before and right after, you notice that it helped kind of enhance his look to the point where it evens out the skin tone, it takes away a few blemishes, it takes away the shine, that kind of thing. So makeup is not false advertising. Makeup is not because we're insecure. Makeup is for so many different reasons. It is for so many different reasons. And it's male dominated. And I think it's getting back to male dominated. I mean, have you seen some of those male influencers? They're incredible. I can't think of his name, but I watch somebody on YouTube, and he's a professional makeup artist, and he talks about issues between the influencer world and the professional world all the time. And he's a man and he wears makeup, but when you look at him, he just looks like he's got a really nice even skin tone. And that's really what, we're going for. And that once again comes back to those light, thin layers. Light, thin layers can help you achieve a makeup look that makes you look flawless and just like an elevated version of yourself. But you can also do crazy makeup looks. I like to do crazy eyeshadow once in a while, and I'm not doing it for anybody or for any occasion. I'm doing it for myself or because I'm inspired. That's what it's coming down to when it comes to this. I'm getting unnecessarily heated over this topic. I think it's because I work in this industry. This is, something that I do. And it's just some misconceptions that I get a lot. And it also, I didn't start doing makeup, even on myself until I was in college. And that's not because of one thing or another. I just found that it's a fun creative outlet that I like to do. And I'm doing it on myself because I had no one else to do it on. Personally, I'd love to do makeup on everybody and just not put it on. And it's not because I don't like it or it's uncomfortable or whatever. It's just, that's a completely different canvas than my own face. Now, before I keep rambling on and on and on and on and on about why this is making me heated, let's talk about you guys. I want to thank you so much for sitting through this entire podcast with me and just listen to me ramble about makeup misconceptions and get heated about dumb makeup misconceptions and that kind of thing. I want to thank you. You guys are always the greatest when it comes to, my listeners. You guys are great. You're all great. Everyone's great. And I want you guys to let me know if you've heard these makeup misconceptions before, or makeup misconceptions I didn't talk about today. And hit me up, let me know on the @GSMC_beauty tips Twitter page or the GSMC Beauty Tips Facebook page. I'm on both of those all the time, always there to answer questions or to even just talk to you. And I love to hear your guys' thoughts when it comes to all of this, not only makeup misconceptions, but makeup in general. I'd also love to see your guys' looks. If you do some fun look, or you feel like you aced your makeup, send it to me. Send it to me on Twitter, or tag me on Facebook, or something like that. Just let me know. I want to interact with you guys because you guys are great. Okay. And for the very, very last time today, I want to thank you guys so much for listening to the GSMC Beauty Tips podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Colleen. Stay beautiful, and I will talk to you in the next one.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Beauty Tips Podcast, part of the GSMC Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type in GSMC to find all of our shows from the GSMC Podcast Network, from health and wellness to entertainment and life and happiness to sex and relationships. You can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's episode of the Golden State Media Concepts Beauty Tips Podcast.